make a better impact. So don't let yourself get frazzled. Don't let the world push you around. If it's a woman, I tell her, hold your ground, woman, you're probably in the right, like the things that we sense in our heart that we need to do, our destiny. It's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to do it. So stay off your phones, give up drinking, go to the gym, find ways that you can bring more love and more joy and more meaning and connection into your life. And always be good to other people, because we make a huge difference even on a daily with the people we interact with.
Hey there, welcome to the Speak to Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks. Today's guest is Courtni StarHeart. Now, Courtni comes from a world that is just like yours and mine, but at a point in time, she tapped into a different level of her heritage that allowed her to tap into what's called the force, which is the unseen power behind all of us that allows us to really be the best of ourselves. She talks about how to develop that by doing it herself in life like she has. She's been an individual that's done a lot of leadership and brought people to this force aspect. You'll hear all about what that is. She goes into her experience really of going through a journey and what she does for individuals to have them go through a journey that's a total experience that shifts who they are in the best of ways. And really what I like is she talks about how if you have a dream or a goal to bring a message out to the world, like how to do that. Like what can you do? How can you tap in to find your message to bring out to make the world a better place the way it's supposed to? She also gives us an amazing, pretty amazing, like unique and very simple breathing exercise you can do to really recenter and tap in and just touch base yourself anytime you want to. Heightened situations, too low of energy. When you find out how to use this little simple breathing technique, it can be a game changer for you. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Hey there, and welcome back into the show. I'm here with our friend, I'm going to say our friend Courtni StarHeart, who is an amazing human who's going to be able to unpack some cool things about her world that is, it's different from mine and yours in the best of ways. So we're going to unpack that. Hey, Courtni, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have no complaints. Beautiful day. At the moment of recording this is Monday morning. And so it's one of those days my day gets going fast. Yesterday sucked for me a little bit in terms of not just the day, but like the stuff that was going on. I navigated it though, because what I do. But enough about me. As I look at you as a speaker and a person who goes in the world and leads amazing, groups of people, if I walked into a space and I go, hey, Courtni, what do you speak about? What would you say?
Wow. I teach people how to elevate their consciousness, which is the equivalent of stepping into a mental flow state, but not for like to sing kumbaya, but rather to be more effective, like in every part of your life. Yeah. So
I like that.
Over the years, I learned a lot of tricks from the different teachers I studied with, as well as being kind of a geek anyway. I love to read and I love to research. I love science, but I'm also an artist. And so I think I have that right left brain balance and that need to bring it all together so that I can share it with people. Like maybe to prove myself right in one sense, because people, anyway.
So in the world of what I do, obviously I'm a football guy, right? So the consciousness thing is like, I'm just like, am I awake? It's consciousness. But I know for you, and obviously at this point in my life, I'm well aware it's beyond that. But there are a lot of individuals who hear that consciousness and flow state and they go, this is that woo-woo stuff. How do you see the two connecting? Because you work with people that are operating at high ticks. They're not individuals who just wear puka shells and sit on, blankets and hum, right? There's a lot more to it. Would you share with me how it is you help those people who are like, let's say, left brain, type A, who are like just, they get structure, rigidity. How do you help those individuals accomplish and achieve more?
Well, I have a lot of clients who are precisely like what you described. And it's like this other part of them, this deeper part seems to be calling out to be heard. I call it finding the force because it's like this, like, why do salmon know they have to swim upstream? There's like something in our hearts that we seek out God, we seek out connection, we seek out meaning. And if we had a manual to actually say, like, here's 4 steps to be able to plug into that anytime you want, you're a lot more happy, you're a lot more effective. But yeah, a lot of my clients, I got a client here last weekend doing a private and as you know, we work with plant medicine, but that isn't really like the important part. The important part is the mentality and the training. She's a lawyer, right? And a model, gorgeous, wonderful, amazing human being, right? Super type A. Wanted to control everything, run the show, tell me how things should be done, because she spent like the past 2 weeks like researching. She's watched every video I've ever made. She learned how to make kombucha from a 10-year-old video and was off on that. I mean, it was just hysterical and kind of like it tickles me. So I've learned with those people to let them run. It's like when you're fishing and there's a big fish on the line, it's going to run for a while.
Yeah, that makes
Fire
sense.
up a cigarette or whatever you got because it's
How
going
far
to
do
take
they
a
run?
minute.
I know,
Well,
because they have ways of doing it. And I think it's because we're all in our own like cadence of life. We do how we do it. And there is a fear around trying something new, because trying something new might detract from they'll call it the progress. It might detract from the speed. It might detract from the success so far. So while we know something has to change, the thing you're telling me, I've never done. So I'm like, I don't know about that. How do you tell someone to dive into this work you're doing? Like if that's the kind of thing that someone's doing, how do you let them release a little bit so they can actually go in a different direction, but faster?
well, we have workbooks and like I'm a type A person and I'm also like that whatever it is, like that big fish on the line that goes for a while. From wrestling me in class and helping me to learn all this stuff. But basically, with that person, um, we like to show them the books. We like to show them the science. We like to lead with something very clean, very professional. And again, like not to toot your horn too much, but like you really helped me to polish up the way I speak to people. That was the hardest thing for me when I started studying last year, to do these presentations, to work with more corporate people, to work with type A personalities. They have money, they have influence, and they can bring a lot to the table. If I can teach them these tiny little things and then give them some plant medicine, they go, whoa. And then you have heart math monitors. And then you have Joe Dispenza nowadays and Greg Braden, all these groundbreaking people. And a lot of them are out in your direction. There are places like in Big Sur and I think, I won't get into it. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah. No, you
trademark.
can do it. I mean, it was just good though. I mean, it's part of it. As I'm thinking, sitting here and going like, well, how did this stuff become your, thing you do? And not that I want to sidebar too deep or, far away, but I want people who are sitting here listening to this going, all right, this is interesting. We're about to open up a good conversation. They're probably going, where did she learn this? Like, who is
Yeah,
she
how
to
did she
talk
get
about
into
this?
this
Right?
weird nook?
Yeah. So
Oh my gosh.
how do you explain that? Because I do know the gist of your background, but I want you to unpack it so people also can know the gist of your background.
It helps me too because I trust you and I think of you as a friend. So I know that you're leading me in a good way. I feel like we're playing tennis and we're having an enjoyable
Yeah,
conversation.
that works. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Um, I had a near death experience. I mean, I had an extended near death experience. I had E. coli in my well in a beautiful home in the hills of New York, about 45 minutes from the GWB. So that's where I
Mhm.
started off out here. I went to college in DC. I went to the same high school as Joe Biden and his kids, and
Mhm.
was part of I was a scholarship kid because I was an athlete and I was an artist and an academic. Like I could just score hundreds on things. It was crazy. So
Yeah.
I got scholarships. God bless me. I'm so grateful. I got an amazing education. So that years later, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I'm dying. And I'm trying to figure out how to stay alive in a
Mhm.
nutshell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to close the circuit because I know I go squirrel and I'm like, let me just make
No,
sure I
that's
answered
good.
his
Yeah.
question.
So what I'm grabbing is you grew up in a good situation. You were a high level athlete, but then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have a kid. Life isn't in the place you expect it to be. You're dying, and we're like, all right, I got to find solutions.
Yeah, got to find solutions. And so I've always been a very spiritual, very kind of religious person. I mean, technically, I'm a minister. That's what the mainstream government calls a medicine person. Because that's what I eventually had to do in order to figure it all out. Because once I figured out how to fix myself, I wasn't going to be like, hey, y'all, I'm good. See you later. I'm like, everybody needs to know this. Like, if there's something in us that's supernatural and that we can connect to higher force and we can really shift the world for the positive. Like, again, I mean, I did comparative religious studies. I was raised Catholic. But when you get into like the aspects of Jesus and the stories. I'm not trying to be religious. I'm giving an example that everybody knows: the water to wine, the people who walk on coals, the medicine men and women who make rain. And I've seen it. I'm like, okay, so that is supernatural. I needed to know all about that. I needed to figure out how I could share it with people, unblock them so that they could tap into it too.
Gotcha. It's a powerful thing. Because I do grow up remembering like the rain dance, and it's like a thing that Native Americans did. That for me in my world, I'm like, it's just a thing they do on TV and movies, But like, no, this is genuine pieces, and I do get there's also, as much as people might say that there's this is always person's perspective. Like, I believe there's a God, I believe that Jesus exists, I believe in all that, right? So if that's the case, I have to believe in the Holy Spirit. If I believe in a spirit, I believe in ghosts. If I believe in ghosts, I got to believe in some kind of natural. We'll call it spirituality. Like, there's got to be some kind of that stuff going on. So I get it. I lock into it. I understand what you're saying. So you get introduced to it. At what point do you start going, I want to be a person that brings this to the world also? Because a lot of people get introduced to it, but they don't all go, I want to introduce it to people.
Well, you wouldn't know that by the millions of people who are calling themselves ayahuasca shamans. I mean,
would
just
not.
saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
In
I
that
mean, I don't
case,
tell myself that.
everybody who touches the medicine becomes super shaman overnight.
Mm.
Whereas if you really want to honor the tradition, it's like a 10 to 20 year journey.
Yeah.
But at what point did I realize it? When my elder, my teacher, Patricio Dominguez, was in that movie Spirit Molecule.
Mm-hmm.
He's the good looking Indian guy with his hair in a bun twisted. Like I think part of the name of the tribe in their language is the twisted hair people, like referring to how they wear their hair.
Yeah.
And he comes from an ancient lineage of medicine people that wasn't completely wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So you got pockets like in China and Tibet and Africa and the Andes high up, you got pockets of people who didn't completely get slaughtered by the conquest and the disease and germs and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's precious because they have this tremendous power. Like, you can feel, like, how your computer did that thing and you had to plug it in? You can feel that these cats are plugged in. Like, you can, like, the hair stands up and there's something electromagnetic maybe about them.
Yeah.
So I studied with him for 15 years.
That's
and
cool.
he called it the Force. He said, walk on Tanka, the great mystery, God, whatever you call it, creator, source. You can call it the Force, and then if you call it the Force, then you can talk to the mainstream people about it, because it's like when you plug into the Force, it's the equivalent of like lighting up your lightsaber.
I get you. Yeah, it's like Star Wars.
Right? How do they do that?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's funny because my head's spinning on all the things you're talking to. Because there are some people that we all, you find yourself in front of, and it's like, this is a different level human. Whether it's the way they look at you, there's the way that they kind of enter a room, the space, the way that they ooze the confidence they have. For sure, there are a lot of human beings that you can, without even talking to it, you just know it. You can walk down the street and catch some of these people and feel it as they walk by. So I get you there for sure. And I like the language of the Force. And this is definitely where I want to dive in deeper with you, because I know your work. We've obviously together built a lot of this stuff out. And so I think this is a good place for people to start really honing in on the value of you and our time together, which is understanding this force of ourselves. Now, we're not talking about plugging everybody in to this thing we're talking about to where they walk around and everybody goes, this person's electric. I mean, maybe at a certain point in time, yes, but not right now. I think what I know it to be is this really valuable concept that allows me to plug into my force, that allows me to be more focused, more productive, get more done, reach more goals, live more joyously. That's my version of it. Do you mind sharing for you and your language to the world when you enter into a corporation and someone goes, what's this force stuff you're talking about? How do you relay to them what it is and the benefit of it?
I thought of you as I was doing this with now I have a graphic design team, thanks to you.
Nice.
See me how to get the right people. So I tell them half the stress, twice the success.
Oh, that's good. I see that.
That has a certain ring to it, doesn't it?
It's got a really good ring to it.
Shaman are a little bit like, okay, so we call ourselves spiritual lawyers in my tradition, but like the medicine men, they were chest thumpers. Like, they could sit there like in any hood and like Joe Mama or this, or I did this and so like I always liked Muhammad Ali, and I liked how he would rhyme. Like, he was my favorite guy. Like, he was my hero growing up. So I studied him. I studied him as a spiritual being, as someone who protested the war, as someone who was just amazing as a lyrical poet. as
Yeah.
well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make everything rhyme. And my team is like, why does everything have to rhyme? And I'm like, I don't know.
There's alliteration that sounds good to the ears. I think people love music and melody and cadence and, rhyming. So not that it has to, but it feels better when it does.
But it's good. This tiny little thing. This
Yeah.
is going to be going out all over the Hamptons.
I like it.
And I've got an ad in a local paper, and I'm
Uh-huh.
going to pitch them on doing small groups. And I do my 4 keys training that I developed with you.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've been going out and doing the performance. All right.
Okay.
So
We'll
that's
do
the
this.
other answer
Let's
is
do this.
I've done it.
Tell people the performance though. So I got some, you're about to unload some great stuff. Tell people what the performance is though, because you're going in a different tangent. I love it.
I'm
But
sorry. Thank you for being such a good tennis buddy.
Let me know. Let us know where we're going. So you got to realize someone's here going, she's giving these things at a Hamptons alliteration performance. What's going on? So there are obviously cards you're putting out to the Hamptons that you're going to be giving to them so you can get them to do groups with you. Prior to this, the precursor to what you're doing as small groups was this. It's a drum ceremony performance. So that's where I want you to dive into. So you guys understand what we're talking to. She developed a really unique keynote that is built on like really a sensory depth, which is a performance. So now you can please share with us what that is.
Well, so the performance is an immersive training, right? So Anthony helped me kind of like corral up a lot of the shamanic stuff and a lot of the research into a presentation that makes sense. It follows the hero's journey. So it's got the psychological impact of all of the great stories, right? It's a transformational, immersive experience. It would be a great party game. It would be a great weekend retreat, like the thing that binds it together. But it's not just a performance. We literally go on a journey together. And I've made a soundscape that is a lot like working with plant medicine or working with drums. Because when we use the drums at a certain cadence, it hijacks the brain waves. And I mean, I'm going to pull this thing out here too. We actually have something that we can hook people up to from heart math that proves that you're shifting your brain waves by doing this. It's working. I'm hooking them all up to the monitor. And once they do the breath work that I teach them in the presentation, don't worry, I'm coming back. Because in each area of the presentation, there are 4 acts, just like the medicine wheel. And in each area, you learn a different skill, which you essentially take home with you, which forever changes how you exist in the world and allows you to plug into the force.
Hey, Anthony Trucks here. We're taking a quick break from the time spent with Courtni StarHeart to talk about the Speak to Freedom program. Now, I mentioned previously, or maybe you heard in the episode, that I worked with Courtni. What she's developed, I've developed alongside of her in our Speak to Freedom coaching program. What it is, it's a way for you to tap into my very specific and simple framework that is not easy to apply, but it's very simple to understand, that can allow you to make more on stage, get on more stages, do more coaching, more consulting, and truly bring your message to the world in a way that allows you to feel like you're making an amazing impact, but also income for yourself that creates freedom. When you have that freedom, it allows you to pour out of your heart in ways you may have never thought possible. But really, it's not just about what it does for you, but also the people you get to go serve. If you find yourself struggling to get on more stages, to kick the business off, or to actually scale your income to make more per speech so you could do less speeches, or to actually work beyond the stage, let me show you how we do that. Go to speaktofreedom.com. It all starts informationally there. And if you actually have a message that you can take to the world, I want to help you bring that thing to the world. So that's it. Go to speaktofreedom.com for more information. Let's get back to the episode with Courtni. I like that. And that's the thing I think is a beneficial piece for people to grasp, is you're not just out here winging it, think it's going to work. And obviously no one's giving you guys medicine in the experience, right? But it's drums, and there's a lot of studies nowadays behind meditation. There's a lot more being done to study the brain waves. And so this is like a in-person drums. Like I can get because there's times I feel like I'm in a trance.
Sound journey, sound therapy.
Sound therapy. That's what I've heard it to be. But I've also there's times when I pray or I meditate to a depth, I almost feel like while I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm in this ridiculously large, black, expansive space. Almost like I'm floating like thousands of miles above my body. It's very weird. And you open your eyes, you're like, oh wait, I'm here, right? But I feel like when I'm in that state, like I'm really tapped in. But it does usually brings like something has to bring that out. So it could be drums, or it could be some cadence, some music. So as you put this in front of people, what's been the response for folks who have been through it with you?
The response has been phenomenal. I was so blessed. I was guided to this holistic health healing arts center here on Long Island. And the ladies are like angels. So they have angels everywhere in their store, and they're Reiki masters. Okay, so in New Mexico, there are like as many people in New Mexico, where I was for 20 years studying, as there are like, I don't know, like in Queens, less. On Long Island, there are 9 million people, and then there's another 50 million in the surrounding areas. So I guess it makes sense that these ladies would have the list from heaven, but they get me together a group and I go out and I'm not supposed to do this because I'm not a gypsy fortune teller. And in my shamanic lineage, we don't play games with cards. We use it seriously, like when you have to consult the heavenly entities and ask for help. You do it seriously, right? Anyway, I was giving card readings and all those women came back because they wanted to know more about me. They came to this presentation and they immediately want to do more. They're like, it completely changed their lives. I keep on getting these texts from these ladies. They're like, I feel like I'm maybe on LSD or I feel like I'm high. And I'm like, sweetie, that's the spirit world. You're tuning into your inner dimensions because the higher planes of vibration are not more dense. They're more light. And when you start going within, there are places, and the Native Americans, again, looping back around to the rainmaking thing, especially if it's an uninterrupted lineage, they have oral tradition of the spirit world. Those cats have been exploring that for centuries, and they built Chichen Itza. So again, they were good at math.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. That's kind of cool. How do you balance all this stuff? Because this is a different, unique space of life, right? I say balance all this stuff, meaning you have a side where there's like there's gonna be a deep spiritual side to it, which is necessary. I think that brings people out. There's also a side that says like this logical, scientific, data driven, put to work. Those usually are competing sides. Where do you find you're able to kind of merge the two? Because most people don't. They stay on one side or the other side, and they go, that side's crazy. But you're going, oh, there's a definitive like carryover here. Where'd you find the heart to want to go into the in between of it?
Well, because the in between is where we become supernatural. And I feel like it's our birthright. So here's the thing is humans have an Achilles heel. Our oral tradition says that we've been wiped out like 4 or 5 times minimum, right? Down to like 1,000
I watched
people,
the show just yesterday on
scratching their,
Yeah, I was watching something on Malta. There's a whole thing on Malta yesterday about this whole like It's crazy you said. I just was like yesterday. I'm like, maybe we aren't the only sophisticated civilization ever exist on planet Earth in millions of years. But yeah, I get what you're
not
saying.
whatsoever. Yeah, no, I got into Graham Hancock years ago because he had the best information and still really does. There's a book called 1491, which is not like ripping on the conquest. It's just factual about what we're discovering now beneath the dense jungle in certain places and throughout the Amazon, all through Central America. I mean, like just Chichen Itza, the pyramid of the sun, moon, earth, and all of that in the planetary sequence.
Yeah.
They're proportionally correct to like 99.9%. And in like 1970, they found this little tiny pyramid way out there somewhere, but it was in the same trajectory, right? It was part of the complex. They knew about Pluto long before we did, because that little pyramid was in the right place.
Aiming at Pluto. That makes sense.
Their language, their advanced language was actually talking to the mechanics of the universe, right?
Yeah.
So, like being a spiritual lawyer, it means that you need to know the code and the law and how to work with it.
Makes
so
sense.
there are principles like polarity. There are principles like connection, like the other realms of the universe have these connective tissues. Everything is stickily interconnected. If you can get past that into the void, that's where you find the force, like the place you're talking about where it's like the quantum field or something.
Yeah, I get you.
There, they taught us that you can plant. And of course, we know like Joe Dispenza's work and a lot of your work with the dark work, you can do that work in the dark, bring it up, and you can plant a new seed. And you always talk about agriculture, like in our class, you're like,
a lot of harvest.
Expect an oak tree to grow 300 feet tall. The day you plant it. It's a process, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of depth to it.
We can plant things in the quantum field and they're more likely to manifest. There's a bunch of mechanics in the body that like I found Dispenza was talking about these things called bandhas and this breath work to activate the pineal and to move the sonotic fluid in the spine. there's a way to pressurize those magnetic crystals, and it ignites a part of the brain. And when that ignites your energy field, which we can now measure because we're not Neanderthals finally, then we can measure this. It's huge. It gets big, and you become like a receiver for energy from the quantum field. You become supernatural. That's what
Gotcha.
Dispenza says.
Oh, well, I haven't studied that part of the work, but you have, which is good. That's why you're on the podcast, because a lot of stuff that I don't know and won't study because it's not within my wheelhouse, but it does sound like it's some dialed in stuff.
It should dial everybody in. It should work. I mean, you've been on the field when you're in that state of grace. Like, what was that God picture? Like you were playing for God that time. When you plug into that, you do become supernatural, right?
Yeah, you flow differently. I mean, if you feel it, but I think the best way to be able to act that way is to feel that way. So let's take this down to, let's take it down to a level most people can actually grab onto it a little more tangibly, right? Okay. So let's say that this exists, and which we're talking about the concept of it. So it exists, it's there. How do I tap into it? Like, how do I reach it? How do I grab it? How do I utilize this? Say, for example, I want to write a book, or I want to become a speaker, right? Or I want to, get a promotion at my job. What are some things I can do to tap into this force that will allow me to actually see that happen and show up in my life?
That the answer is so incredibly simple, but people just completely fail to be able to grok that it's this simple. The breath. Right now, you could learn a breathwork technique that would take you a couple seconds. And if you perform that breathwork technique over and over again, you'll have more bandwidth to download stuff from the force.
Can we do it?
Like 5G.
Is that bad to do it? I mean, I'm asking that because
I'm breathing. It's not even that difficult. You just have to put your hand on your heart and feel your heartbeat.
Is that your left hand on your heart? Which hand's on the heart? Left hand, heart.
Right hand on the abdomen, right?
Right hand on the abdomen.
Inhale to 4, and you're going to fill up all the compartments of your lungs.
Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to hold 2, 3, 4, and exhale 2, 3, 4 completely, and then hold and pull 2, 3, 4. And you just want to check in with yourself several times a day and do that box breathing. And you'll find the connection between the heart and the breath. Once you've taken over the breath, you're the one who's driving
the car, huh?
Cadillac.
Hey, it's interesting. My wife does this. So she runs track, and she's, runs at a good tick, and she's fast. And she gets to the point of nerves. And I know every time I watch her in a race, I can be 100 meters away before the gun's about to go off, like they're about to get in their block. She's back there doing this. I don't know where she learned it. She must have Googled it or watched it or somebody, right? But she does that. And it does. It calms your system. I've heard of it being used by even Navy SEALs, in fact, the box breathing, in the same 4 count.
100%.
Yeah, because it does. It puts you back in control of the nervous system, which it has fight or flight. It goes crazy. But if you can be back in control of it, you're the one in control of the crazy.
So the amygdala is the Achilles heel of the human being. And most people are stuck in fight or flight. Yeah. And they're stuck in a place where their brain is shut down, most of it in service of the lizard brain, basically, which is that fight or flight, you or me, us or them. Yeah. That which separates in order to dominate is that lizard brain. We don't have to be in that position all the time, but we're like stuck there. So the good news about the Achilles heel is the breath is a solution that's free to everyone.
Yeah. We all do it
right away.
Yeah. We all have access to it. We all do it every day. And there's a lot of, I've even done breathing that has to do with I think Qigong's different, but it has to do with the realm of breath scaling is what I've been told it's called, that allows me, I can shoot oxygen in my brain just by and kicking the tempo up to and bringing it down. But in the climb up, which usually takes, like a minute or 2 to get up and then to come back down. But that pace, by the time I'm back at the bottom, I'm not lightheaded. I'm a little bit calm, but my brain is fired. I'm up, I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to speak. I do it before I go on stages.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah. I'm in the back of the room breathing like that. I'll stretch out, I'll do some almost like football, stretches, move my body around. And then I do that breathing, because now I go up there, because for an hour, I got to be sharp. I'm talking sharp focused, because I can't be trying to look for words. I can't be trying to think of the next thing. I got to be on. And it's 45 to an hour of this. if I'm not prepped to go out there, like I start slow, it's tough. But if I get out there, I'm ready to rock. Like before I know it, the hour's up. I'm like, where'd the hour go? And so that's the feeling. But yes, I do the same thing. Breathing is a big piece of it for me.
Well, the breath. I mean,
All in the
in
breath,
all
folks.
different traditions, prana, chi, the
Yeah,
force.
it's all there. So when you go out to the world, this is where I want to definitely kind of, we'll call it, go to the back end of our time together, but we're not done yet. But you go into the world and you share this with people, and for you, it's a different flow. How do you find? And I'm talking from a stance of knowing that we've had our conversations, but let's be honest, like putting something new into the world is not easy. Like this, what I do is not easy. People look at me like, oh, he's got it down. I got it down after a decade. You know, it's been a long time coming to get an idea and a concept into the world. How are you flowing and how are you keeping yourself, I guess, moving past the sticky parts as you go to the world and the world goes, like, I get it. Oh, I fully get it. And a lot of people go, I don't get it. Like, what keeps you moving on the journey? Because a lot of people listening also have a message, an idea, a thought they want to get out into the world. And the world doesn't gobble it up like it's, like it's a cookie. In the beginning, it's a little bit of energy, it's a little bit of work. But how do you feel that journey going for you?
Um, I'm resilient. People say Capricorn, that sign, like the little goat that climbs up the mountain, that we're resilient. But I think what happens is you get to the point where you got to go look for a job, doing something you don't want to do. And that makes you climb faster, work harder, and work better, because you're like, wow, like I'm so privileged to have this gift that I can share with people and to have the passion about that. I'm carrying 10,000 years of native tradition that would be dead if it weren't for me. And a lot of those people are my ancestors. I'm 1/4 native by my full blood grandmother. So there's a piece of native pride in there. There's a piece of also like the cultural integrity being the solution to the ills of the world today. Like if we really understood our greatness, if people could understand and feel better, then I think the world could change almost overnight. There's a critical mass. There's a goal line. Like the Maharishi did research. He believed the TM Foundation. Their research shows that there's a critical mass where if there's enough consciousness, like if enough people's energy bubbles are really big, like I said, like the Vitruvian man, and strong, then we're bringing in a certain energy. And whether you want to call that the Holy Spirit or the Force or Wakantanka, it really doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't, because the thing is still the same. You bring that in, we hold that, and the world changes without having to argue. They say that there's a tipping point where people's consciousness will just get better.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice if people can grab that and rock with it. I think there's definitely a beauty to that, and getting it all figured out would be the nice part. It's been fun. It's been fun, like unpacking your brain, your head, your heart. What advice do you have to somebody who's in the beginning of this journey, who's starting it, getting their things moving, like, where you were a while back? Like, what's advice you can give to them? And they could be talking about everything from what you're talking about in spirituality to, I don't know, how to drive race cars, right? What is a thing of like, I guess, motivational or inspirational language you can give to them?
Um, Sometimes a thing being simple and elegant is better than too much. So we think we always need to do the next thing or do more or whatever. But there's a place of stillness and calm where you have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what you need to do. And it's from that place of kind of like unity consciousness where I think we can make a better impact. So don't let yourself get frazzled. Don't let the world push you around. If it's a woman, I tell her, hold your ground, woman, you're probably in the right,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
the things that we sense in our heart that we need to do, our destiny. It's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to do it. So stay off your phones, give up drinking, go to the gym, find ways that you can bring more love and more joy and more meaning and connection into your life. And
Mm-hmm.
always be good to other people, because
I
we
like
make
it.
a huge difference, even on a daily, with the people we interact with.
I agree. Every day I try to start out with doing something good or joyous or be in a good, positive mood. Even if those around me aren't in the best moods, I try to get them there as best I can. It's what are you going to do? It's how life works. For those who are tuned in, who are like, I like this. I like what she's talking about. I want to have, half the stress, double the success. Where would I send them to? Is there a link or a place I would send them to check you out?
Our juiciest website right now that I just redid is churchofthenaturallaw.org.
Okay.
And it's looking good. It's looking Hamptons.
Mm-hmm.
And the Finding the Force, which is my performance, the keynote performance and training, that's at findingtheforce.com.
Okay.
So I'm super easy to find. I'm Courtni StarHeart, Courtney with an I. So, when I was on those dating apps and people would like try to look you up, I was so easy to look up. As soon as they got Courtney with an I, they could like do a background check on you.
Hey, we got it. They came and found your force. I'm just joking.
They found my force. Yeah.
That's great. Man, it's been fun. Thank you so much. Those of you guys who want more of her, go to churchofthenaturallaw.org. Thank you for hanging out with us, Courtni. I enjoyed the conversation as I knew I would. If you are listening and know someone in your life who needs to hear this, share the episode with them. It takes one click of a button to put in their inbox and it unfolds into something cool for their life if you can't quite get to them because you might be too close. Also, if something resonated with you, and there's some piece that she said, something that popped off the audio, you go, gosh, I got to try that. Go try it. It's that simple sometimes to try something. That breathing aspect, I think that's beautiful to use in any moment in time. Reconnect, tap in, say you're feeling, say how your force is going and go. But outside of that, go out into the world and find something new that resonates with you. And if you want to bring something to the world, be the person that brings it to the world. That's it. Go out there and if you are a speaker in your life and you want to do something great for the world, make sure you're putting your message out so you can speak to freedom in your life. It's Anthony Trucks and Courtni StarHeart signing off. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Speak to Freedom podcast. I hope you found our discussion inspiring and informative. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all our future releases, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for tuning in today. Until next time, remember to speak with confidence and clarity so you can one day soon speak to freedom. See you in the next episode.